Hello everybody, it's Gerudo, and welcome back to Let's Play The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. In the previous episode, we finished off of the Thunderhelm side quest, which is important for what we'll be doing in today's video, because today we're going to be spending the day hanging out with Riju, because after you get the Thunderhelm, there are a lot of really interesting details with Riju if you follow her around and things like that. So that's what we'll be doing in today's video. There will not be any story progress or side quests or anything like that. This is mostly just going to be a video showcasing some of my more personal favorite details across this region, as well as a few miscellaneous topics that we kind of talked about before, but really didn't go into a lot of detail with. So without further ado, let's go. This is something that's pretty amusing, because I still see a lot of people not knowing that this is even possible, because a lot of people I know don't really go for the Thunderhelm, and even if they do, they don't really stay in town long enough to even see these. So this is another big reason why I absolutely love Riju, because she's one of the most interactive NPCs in the entire game, and you don't really get to see a whole lot of characters like that in the Zelda series. So this is one that I'm really particularly looking forward to. Isn't she just so adorable? She's so cute. She's look at the adorable. Oh, what should we play? Riju, you're adorable. I love you. What? The sand seal stuffed animals? Don't worry about them. Just ignore them. Okay? Besides, town hero or not, you shouldn't just come wandering into someone's room at the time of the night. What? You don't have a place to stay? Well, you can't stay here. There's a perfectly fine hotel in town. The soldiers speak highly of some kind of rejuvenating experience there.
Phew.
I can barely get my eyes open right now. What's up, Volk? I know she's chief and all, but it's like almost midnight and stuff. She's kind of staying up late for a 12-year-old. My mother may not be here in the flesh, but her soul is with me, always. I have no doubt she led you here. Fate works in mysterious ways. As we continue the story progress of the Wasteland region, more diary entries will be added to Riju's diary. We already saw most of them, but we haven't seen the final two yet, so we'll be demonstrating that right now. My prayers were answered. One of the champions of old has appeared. Valeria was wary, but he has proven himself by taking our heirloom back from the thieves and calming Noboris. She now seems to trust his abilities. She even seems to not mind that he is a vow. She's so focused and serious, always by the book. I'm surprised she's okay with him. He has returned to us. It seems he has need of my family heirloom, the Thunderhelm. I want to simply lend it to him without a thought, but it is incredibly valuable to myself and our people. I couldn't just hand it over, so I asked him to help with the minor problems plaguing our town. It's funny. I used to spend a lot of my time worrying about my people or my ability to lead. Now, I look forward to each and every day. I think this hero helped with that. Maybe one day he and I can compete in a sandseal race. I'd enjoy that. Nintendo, I'm not asking much for the Breath of the Wild sequel. I'm sure it's going to be awesome. But I do have just one request. Aside from Zelda being playable, I have one request. Please let there be a minigame where Link and Riju can race each other, because that would be awesome. I'm really curious to see what they're going to do with the Breath of the Wild sequel. Like, I'm not sure if I'm going to leave this in the video or not, but I just want to talk about that for just a little bit. It's probably going to be, like, maybe a year or two later, but I'm kind of hoping that it's a little bit more than that, because I'm specifically wondering what Gerudo Town's going to be like if they do skip ahead a couple years, because it'd be really cool to see Riju grow as a leader and things like that, and I just kind of really hope that that's something that they try to do with the game. Around 4 o'clock or so, we could see that this is just process. She's sleeping with the Patressa plushie. She sleeps in a ball. She sleeps curled up in a ball like I do. That's adorable. And we can also see that she's dreaming about her mother. Which brings me to the writing on the walls in this area. So, This next segment is going to be post-commentated because I don't have my notes on hand right now about what all this translation means, but the details in what's written here is very fascinating. There's some really interesting backstory told about this region and the Gerudo in general from this text that you wouldn't really know otherwise unless you took the time to actually translate all the text and things like that, and that's what we'll be doing right now. Most of the text is pretty generic. You'll have a few statues here and there. They'll say Gerudo or Vigilant or Desert Sun or things like that, but the ones in Riju's room are particularly worth mentioning. Gerudo. A resilient desert flower, facing the sun's gaze. Gerudo grows brilliant, while others fade. We stand vigilant in the desert sun. We are brilliant over everyone. Vigilant in the sun growing brilliant, Gerudo never outdone. And on the pedestal for the Thunder Helm in Riju's throne room, it says, Gerudo, brilliant in the sun. Now this is really interesting and thought-provoking, but personally, some of my favorite ones are actually not in Gerudo Town at all, because if we go back to the Yiga Clan hideout, there's some more text there, such as the wall inside of the entrance, which says, Gerudo, there is no strife. Gerudo, like water, we flow with life. And at the statue's sword, it says, Gerudo, an unblemished desert flow. It's meant to say desert flower, but some of the text is cut off because it's an old statue and some of the lettering has faded away. But it says desert flower, at least that's what we think it says, because that seems to be a common saying across the Gerudo text in the game. Now the reason why this is particularly worth mentioning is because most of the Gerudo text across the game is pretty generic, but this is detailed. So this leads to the theory that the Yiga Clan hideout used to belong to the Gerudo, which leads to a personal theory of mine that this is Breath of the Wild's equivalent to the Gerudo training grounds from The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. And Breath of the Wild itself, it takes place a couple thousand years after the events of Ocarina of Time, so it's possible that there's another Gerudo training ground somewhere in this Hyrule, and I think this is what the Yiga Clan hideout used to be before the Yiga Clan took it over. So around 7 o'clock, Riju is going to wake up, and... Wait, she's not wearing her crown. I've never seen this before. Well, you're back. However, I'm sorry, but I'm quite busy right at this moment. I don't have the time to catch up. It's normally part of my morning routine to have a chat with Patricia before I start my day. But with the Divine Beast causing so much havoc, I haven't had much time until now to come visit her. Riju goes to sleep around 4 o'clock and wakes up at 7, meaning that she really only sleeps like 3 hours a day. Is that normal for, like, leaders and things like that? I don't know the answer to that. But around 9 o'clock or so, Riju will go over here and start to visit Patricia. Wait, does she need... She needs a stool to get onto this chair, too. Huh? Patricia has a mysterious power. If you feed some fruit to her, she will deliver divine messages. But the messages can only be understood by those who are able to truly communicate with her. Intriguing. We're gonna have to check that out. So, let's do that right now, because why not? So, basically, the more valuable the fruit, the more interesting dialogue you're gonna get, although you're probably gonna get repeats if you keep using the same fruit over and over again. We're gonna start off with the banana, because bananas are funny. Also, Patricia is like the most adorable thing ever. Sand seals can be knocked out by the sound of an explosion. I'm serious. That was a close one. She tried to slip a seal pun in there. Thank you for your wisdom, kind Patricia. We're very grateful. Patricia makes puns! This is the greatest thing ever! Like, Riju and Patricia are like the greatest duo in Zelda history. Maybe there's some other game out there where they can appear and they're also equally awesome in that game. Not saying anything more specific for those who haven't played said game I'm being vague and cryptic about. Seal the deal of your fortune by using more valuable fruit. Yeah, there was no avoiding that pun. Every durian that I ever see in a video game is always super spiky. Are they like that in real life? Because That doesn't look very comfy to hold. I've also heard that they smell really bad. The southern desert is searing hot during the day. Bring gear made for it. I've spared you the painful seal pun. Come on, Bada. Puns are the greatest things ever. Patricia was a present from my mother. She turned out to be my first and last gift from her. And now when we know why Patricia is so special to her. I was just about to take a selfie. Sorry that took the time to come here, but I'm busy right at the moment. If I stray too far from the throne room, I'll be on the receiving end of another of Baleria's lectures. And around 11 o'clock or so, Riju will leave the area. I kind of wish we got to see Riju actually go up and approach Patricia, but I'm sorry that would have been a nightmare on a programming level to program the two characters being able to talk to each other and things like that. So it makes sense why they didn't do that. And we already got to see the awesomeness of them riding off to fight Naboris. And sometime after 12 o'clock, Riju will finally get to her throne. I know I've said this like the third time in the series, but the Brewster seat on the throne is still like my favorite detail. What's wrong? Are you so worried about the safety of this town? Or have you grown so comfortable here that you can't imagine leaving? Whatever the case may be, you're needed elsewhere. You must eventually leave. You know this. That being said, when it's all over, if you were to drop by here, I think we'd all be pleased to see you. Can we wear the Thunderhelm in the town, or are we gonna get thrown out for that? Oh, we can! I've never seen it on Link's face. It's so funny. Okay, Riju wears this much better, but this is really great. So as we go across this area, I would like to talk about Riju for a moment because I've talked about my opinions on most of the other champions in the game, how I really like Sidon and Duruk is one of my favorite characters for reasons already explained in previous episodes. Riju herself, I haven't really gone into too much detail outside of the fact that I've mentioned that this is my favorite story arc in Breath of the Wild, and Riju is a huge reason why. And now I'd like to explain. Riju is my favorite character in The Legend of Zelda. That's the end of the sentence. But in all seriousness, I often go back and forth between whether or not Riju is my favorite, or Marin, or Breath of the Wild version of Zelda, or Skyward Sword version of Zelda. I flip-flop between so many characters, but Riju is easily one of my favorite Zelda characters of all time. Because she's given the responsibility of being the Gerudo chief at a very young age. She's still a child, and even though she is very worried and kind of doubting her own abilities to lead her people, especially after the Thunderhelm was stolen, she still goes headfirst to go after the Divine Beast when Link arrives. Like, she is the one who goes after Vinoboris and things like that, and that's just all kinds of awesome. But she's also the most adorable character ever because, like, especially her interactions with Patricia, it's just so cute. And Riju is just easily one of my favorite Zelda characters of all time. And I really hope we get to see more character development in the next Breath of the Wild game. With the Breath of the Wild sequel that'll be coming out hopefully next year. I really hope we get to see more character development with her because Riju, like I said, is easily one of my favorite Zelda characters of all time. So having taken care of all that, we're in this video off here. So thank you all so much for watching this episode of The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. The options are where to go next. You can actually take care of some side quest progress across Gerudo Town in the next episode of the playlist. We are almost done with these. Kind of. We still have a long way to go, but we're getting there. Your alternate route, however, is to leave Gerudo Town and start exploring a couple of regions that we may or may not have seen before. You can also look for the Korok's Cross Wasteland region if you'd like, or ignore all that and go straight for Calamity Ganon. So thank you guys so much for watching this episode of The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Updated Gerudo, and where would you like to go to next?